Welcome to this GiftWorks quick video. My name is Jonathan Lehman. This video is part of a video series on understanding how GiftWorks can be configured to work with QuickBooks. This particular video is understanding the transaction register. It's an overview of the transaction register and how it is an audit trail for all additions, changes, and deletions of donations and pledges in GiftWorks. The transaction register is what is used to create the journal entries when you post to QuickBooks. Now, this is not an overview of accounting principles. Our expectation is that you would have some knowledge of accounting principles and concepts. If not, we would suggest that you contact an accounting advisor. So let's get started. I'll sign into GiftWorks. And let's go to the settings area. In our accounting section, I could either click View Transactions here or go to the accounting section and click View Transaction Register. The transaction register is an audit trail, as I said earlier, sort of a history of all the activity that is recorded for donations, pledges, pledge payments within GiftWorks. This includes when they're added, when they're changed, when the amounts or funds are changed, or when they're deleted. And this is what allows all that activity to be posted and updated to QuickBooks. If we kind of look at some of the columns that are listed here in the transaction register, you'll see it has the date that the activity occurred, the type of transaction it is. You'll see that there's gifts here, pledge payments, pledges. These are scheduled pledge payments, and also voids, which I'll demonstrate later. You see the donor that the transaction was for, the amount. Here's the debit and credit account. This is what is posted to QuickBooks. And one of the important notes I want to make at this point is when you look at that, you'll notice that each transaction has a single amount and a debit and a credit account. This supports the double entry accounting system. And because of this, the nature of each transaction, it guarantees that when transactions are posted to QuickBooks, that your debit and credits will always be in balance. It shows the fund, shows the class, which is associated with that transaction, the campaign, and it shows whether or not that transaction was posted. You can see that some of the transactions here were already either posted to QuickBooks or a CSV file. And there's also an active status. The active status indicates what is the current state of that donation or pledge. So since you can add a donation and make changes, transactions are created every time that occurs, and we're going to go through some examples of that. The active flag indicates what the current state of that donation or pledge is. One other thing I want to show you briefly before we get started is I'm going to go into the Manage Accounts and Funds section, and I'm going to go through accounts here and go to the Fund section. You'll see this is covered in much more detail in the Understanding GiftWorks Accounts and Fund video. But just briefly here, I'm going to show you that if we look at the General Fund, that this is where it's configured when you select a fund for a gift or a pledge payment. This is what determines what accounts are posted to those transactions. Again, there's a lot more detail of that on the Understanding GiftWorks Accounts and Funds video. I'm going to show you some examples of how the transaction register is updated by, I'm going to go ahead and put a gift in for Glenn. I'm going to add a donation for $500 to the general fund. It's going to be a check. We'll go through, save that, and if we go to back to the settings area to view the transactions, you'll see that it wrote a transaction, today's date, to Glenn. You see the $500, and you'll see that the accounts that came from that fund setup I showed you. So you can see it wrote a transaction, and that's currently, it hasn't been posted, but it's currently the active transaction for that gift. So that's pretty straightforward. Now, anytime you, as I said earlier, anytime you modify or delete a gift, it will register transactions. Let's see what happens if I would change the amount of that gift. Again, if I change the amount or the fund, either one of those could impact the accounting that would need to be updated in QuickBooks. So either one of those would affect create transactions. The example I'll show you is changing the amount. So if I go into this transaction, or this gift, and I edit it, and let's change the amount of this gift. Let's change it to $600 and save it. Let's go back to the settings area to view transactions, and let's see how GiftWorks handles that. One of the most important concepts to understand is that you'll see here's the original gift that we saw before. The first thing it does whenever you make any kind of a change like that is it voids out the original transaction. So you can see here that you have a void transaction of $500, and you can see how the original credit account is now the debit account and the original debit is the credit account. So those accounts offset each other and really would result in no impact to either of those accounts for those two transactions. The first thing is, see, both of those are no longer the active state of that. I'm sorry, I didn't go over there for now. That's the posted. Neither of those are the active state of that transaction. They're just reflecting activity that happened. The last transaction, then once it voids out the original transaction, it creates a new transaction of $600, reflecting the new amount of the gift. And you can see that's now the active transaction. So rather than just writing an adjustment of $100, GiftWorks handles all changes and deletes by always voiding the original transactions and then creating a transaction reflecting the current state. Let's do another example where I'm going to show you what happens now. So I have that gift for $600. If I go back in here and I actually just delete this gift, go back to Settings, View Transactions. You'll see what this did is this just wrote a void transaction. So basically voided out that $600, and that's currently the active state of that gift, which is deleted. Let me show you how it handles gifts that have that are applied to multiple funds. So again, we'll add another gift. This one to Jack. We'll add a donation. This one we'll go in and we'll select funds. And we'll put $300 to the building fund and $400 to the technology fund. So it's a $700 gift split across those two funds. So if we save that, go to View Transactions. You'll see in this case, for that kind of a gift, it created an individual transaction for each one of the funds that's part of the gift. And that's because, remember, each transaction has a debit and credit account, and those are associated with the funds. So in a split fund gift, it has to create multiple transactions. Now when that's posted to QuickBooks, for the gifts, for the donations for that gift will be put on one journal entry. Let's review how it handles a pledge and pledge payments. So if I'll go in here and let's go to Quincy Carter here, and we'll add a pledge of $400, 2 payments. We'll save those. Let's just look at that a while. We'll go back into View Transactions. You'll see that it created, for each of those scheduled pledge payments, it created a transaction. So you have 2 transactions, each for $200. It's showing that the debit account is the pledge receivables account and the credit account is the pledge income account. So we're going to actually receive one of those pledge payments. Quincy Carter here. Go into his donations and his pledge here. We'll actually apply a payment for one of those. There's the settings area, view transactions. You'll see that in this case, what it did in a pledge payment, again using that same principle, it voids that original pledge payment, the scheduled pledge payment. So it voids out the pledge income that was the credit account becomes the debit account, and the pledge receivables on the credit account was originally the debit account. So it voids that out. So basically, it reverses out the impact of that transaction, and then creates a new transaction for the actual payment amount, which at this point the debit account becomes cash and the credit account becomes direct public support. So you can see basically how, again, it uses that same void principle. So we hope that this video has helped you in understanding how transactions are created based on the activity that you do within GiftWorks. In future videos, we'll show you how these transactions are posted to QuickBooks. Thank you for watching this video.